Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe, turn that bell on, and hit the thumbs up. All right, well, this is my very first post-game recap for the New York Knicks for any team. And gotta take a moment right now to just kind of like enjoy that part of it. The fact that I'm even getting to do a post-game recap is, that's fantastic. Can't lose sight of that. Got to stop and smell the Derrick Roses. Okay, but that being aside, this loss fucking sucked. It totally sucked, and I'm going to break the game down. I'm going to do the recap. I'm not going to show highlights. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show screen grabs, and I'm going to show you a section called, it's a section called the good, the bad, and the fugly. Fugly for fucking ugly. Okay, but before I get to that, right now, just to give you an overview of my take on this game. Basically, this was an emo game. Emo lost us this game. The emotions overwhelmed the Knicks, and partly it's because of the layoff, honestly. I mean, when you see Julius, he said after the All-Star break, he's always rusty. It takes him a game or two to shake that off, to get back into it, and we saw it happen after the All-Star game this time. The All-Star break, should we say. The 7 games was a lot. This thing, I think it got inside the players' heads, even though, the one side of it is really positive, which is it gives players time to rest their aching bones, refuel the tank, spend some time with their family. But the problem is sometimes that can dull your edge, and that's, I think, is what happens. And you can see it in the way they started off. This game was lost in the first quarter. But before I get to that, I want to talk about my prediction for this game, for this series, Knicks in 5. Now, originally, when I did a live stream with Keith from Sports Vibes TV and JD of JD Sports Talk, my feeling was this series was going to go 6 or 7 games. Atlanta's a really good team, and it's a really good matchup between the two of them, even though the Knicks did, sweep them in the regular season. I just thought, what? Come playoff time, things are going to get a little tighter. But then as I dove deeper, as I was, creating more content for the channel, I just saw the Knicks dominating and winning this thing in 5. Now, of course, that's going to be much harder now. They'd have to win 4 straight, which is possible, but much less likely. So I think we're looking at a 6 or 7 game series once again. But one other question that came up during that live stream was, hey, George, do you think game 1 is a must win? My opinion at the time, and it still is, it's not a must win, because I actually thought the Knicks were going to drop this game. And I didn't want to come out and say it because I didn't want to, put that bad mojo out there. And but this was my fear. This was my fear that the pressure of the game, this being the first playoff series for Julius and for RJ, the 2 most important players on the court for the Knicks, I thought it would overwhelm them. But I also was kind of thinking, yeah, they may come out like that in the first quarter, maybe even the first half, but come the second half, they could settle down and they can or basically beat this team. And that is almost what happened. It is almost what happened. We only lost by 2, 107-105. So that kind of shows that the Knicks are actually in a pretty good place, because when you factor in that the starters, and I'm talking about specifically Reggie Bullock, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett, they combined for 3 of 17 from behind the arc for 17.6%. I would not bet money that is something they're going to replicate for the rest of the series. In fact, it's highly unlikely. And the other thing that's highly unlikely is that they're going to, for the total field goal percentage, that they're going to average less than 32%. They were 31.9%, 15 of 47. I just don't see it. It's not going to happen. Thankfully, the second unit was superb. Shout out to Alec Burks. The man was sensational. I call him the assassin. 9 of 13, 3 of 5 from behind the arc for 27 points. He even gave us 4 assists. Wonderful. Derrick Rose. Offensively, He was superb. You know, 1 of 4 from behind the arc. I'd like to see him take more threes. You know, maybe take a 5th one. He would have hit that one, so it would have been 2 of 5 for a 40% average. He needs to do that, but still, he did hit that one nice 3. He was what was he from the? He was 8 of 16 total for 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. You know, Taj 9 rebounds. Toppin, man, he was probably the most dynamic, actually, except for a couple like RJ, that one stuff that he did on the breakaway. 2 of 3, you know, 1 of 2 from behind the arc. He even had a rebound, had assists. He played some decent defense, gave us 5 points. But Immanuel Quickley, oh man, Immanuel Quickley. Now that's a guy who did not let the moment overwhelm them, but. You know, he gave us 10 points, 4 of 7, 2 of 2 from behind the arc in 21 minutes, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. You know, that's a very solid. I mean, for second unit for bench, the bench scoring and bench play, that was outstanding. They actually got us back in the game. But you know what? I expected them to replicate this. Because if there was ever a time that they were going to be overwhelmed by the grandeur, you know, of the whole spectacle of playing in Madison Square Garden, game 1, it would have been this game. So the fact that they didn't do that, I expect them, they may not be as outstanding as they were in game 1, but they're going to give us a lot of good production throughout the series. So that's a great thing to bank on. And the other thing is, you know, they got to sit. They got to sit for almost a quarter and kind of let the game develop. Let the emotions kind of like wash away. So when they came into the game, they were just like, let's get going. Let's get to work. Whereby the starters, it was a different scenario. And we saw it. So Julius, 6 of 23. 2 of 6 from behind the arc. 12 rebounds, though. It's good. 4 assists. He could have had more assists. That's one of the things. He didn't spray the ball enough. He kind of forced some issues, but he had open looks. This wasn't a matter of the Atlanta defense, shutting Julius Randle down. No, I totally disagree with that, and I'm going to show you open shots that he had. That's part of the whole... That's what gives me hope for the series. I wouldn't even be surprised if they won the next 4. I know that sounds crazy, super optimistic, Pollyanna-ish, but I'm just telling you, this is what I see. And this is what I'm here to do, give you my take. But the Knicks are in a great position. Even if it goes 6 games or 7 games, we have the home court advantage, and that's what it's all about. So I'm really hopeful for the rest of this series. But this game was lost in the first quarter. And Elfrid Payton, my God. I honestly... It's really not much else to say. 8 minutes, 0 for 3. People think, what's 8 minutes? Well, guess what? In the playoffs, every single fucking possession matters. That's the mantra. Every possession matters. So if every possession matters, every minute matters. You can't have wasted with someone like Elfrid Payton. Something has to be done. Thibs, it's time to make the change. Make the change. I'm not going to suggest who, but you got to make the change. Okay. Let's get to the good, the bad, and the fugly. Let's start with the good. Here's the good. The good is RJ Barrett, of the 3 that were overwhelmed, in my opinion, especially in the first quarter, by the magnitude of the game. RJ was the one that was the least overwhelmed. And in fact, this drive is actually what kind of kept the Knicks around. He broke down that defense, got in the paint, beautiful little layup off the glass, and got the Knicks kind of reignited confidence in this team. I want to see more of this. I want to see more of this. The ball in RJ's hands, and he drives and gets easy buckets. Well, this is not such an easy bucket. Well, actually, he made it easy because the way he beat his defender. But this is the good. We're going to see more of this. I love it. Now I'm going to do a section. It's a hybrid. Okay? It's the good and bad. This is a good and bad play. It's good because there's, really positive things that came out of it, which is the fact that Julius got to his spot, his favorite spot, the right baseline area where he is the most, I think he's the leading scorer from that. Actually, it is, if you watch my other video. He's the leading scorer from the right baseline in the entire NBA. And look at this. People say, oh, well, look, he's He's got two men on him. Yes, but look at the vertical space, the airspace. It's clear. He was able to levitate, and it's clear he really wasn't that intimidated. This is a shot he hits, all the time. We've seen him do it constantly. So that gives me a lot of hope, because that is nerves. That is lack of focus. That is letting the magnitude of the moment interfere with your focus. And that's what happened. That's what happens with that's what happened with Julius, and that's what happened with Bullock, and that's what happened with RJ Barrett to a great extent, because he also missed some open threes that he could have had. He was a little too strong on them. Now here's the thing. If the Knicks took 7 shots in the first 5 minutes or so that were all pretty decent looks, they just normally make those. So if they had hit 3 out of 7, or let's go big, 4 out of 7 of those, this whole game changes completely. They all relax. Even more shots start hitting. Like we've seen Reggie, he can snap off 3, 4 in a row. RJ, boom, boom, boom. Julius. So by them clanking those shots, it just created more and more pressure on them. And it just led to, a bad situation where at the end of the first quarter, they were down 24-16. Now, I'm not going to put all the blame on Elfrid on that, because I think when Elfrid left the game at the 7 minute and 45 second mark, I think the Knicks were only down by 2. I believe it was 8-7 or 8-6 or something like that. So you can see the Hawks were able to extend the lead while Rose was on the court in the first quarter. Now the second quarter was a different story. It's where we clawed back in the game, which was awesome. Now here we go. The good and bad number 2. Look at that. That's a good look for Julius. He hits that. So I think if he gets more of these looks throughout the rest of the series, we're going to be fine. We really are. Now let's go to the clear out bad. All right. Julius drives, and this is one thing that just annoys the fuck out of me, which is when you do all the work to get to the glass, you got to convert. I used to tell it to my son when he was playing, and it's a waste. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of opportunity. It puts you out of position. What happened after this is the ball bounced. He missed, and Nerlens wasn't able to tip it back in. And both Nerlens and Julius, our 2 biggest players, were stuck under our basket while they ignited the break, and it led to an easy bucket for them. So that's the bad. That's got to change. Julius, if you drive, you got to convert. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, and you know it. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you're driving yourself crazy about this. Now let's go to the fugly. Here it is, the fucking ugly. Okay? What else do I need to say about this play? Look at Elfrid. He's an observer. This can't happen. And the reason this happened is because right before this play, on the offensive side, Elf decided to drive into the paint. He had Nerlens for an alley-oop, but instead decided to shoot it, and he clanked it off the side of the rim, and it led to this fast break, and this play culminated in an alley-oop for Capella. So that can't happen. That cannot happen. Cannot happen. That's it. Now let's go to the next fugly play. We're going to leave Elfrid behind and talk about Derrick Rose and just the general approach of the Knicks, the pick and roll with Trae Young. Okay? This is what's got to happen. This is what has to happen. They have to switch. The big man has to switch onto Trae here, because it's going to leave him in no man's land. I'm going to show you how it progresses, the play progresses. Now, Rose decides to stick with Trae, and he fights over the pick, which is what you're supposed to do when you stick with your man. But if Rose had just switched off and slid and sealed off any of the ability for Collins to get past him, and then Trae could have sealed off the paint. Taj could have sealed off the paint from Trae. This is something that they have to do for the rest of the series from now on. I'll show you. Look, the next play, look. See? Now Taj, he's drifting back. He doesn't know what to do. What he should be doing is, just jumping right out at Trae, and just have faith that RJ will be able to rotate and pick up Collins. So let's hope that they're working on this today. All right, and this is how it culminated. It culminated in an easy floater. I mean, for most people, they were like, wait a second, you know what? This is not that easy a shot. But for Trae, I think he led the league in floaters. And ironically, the guy trying to block it from the side was the second best floater scorer in the NBA this season. So this is the major problem for the Knicks with Trae Young in the pick and roll defense. I'm sure Tom Thibodeau is going to make adjustments, and the Knicks are going to come out in game 2, and we're going to win. I feel it. I feel like they're going to have... I wish the game was tomorrow, so there's not that much time in between, but they can use it for Nerlens to that ankle, because we need Nerlens. And Julius, I don't see Julius and RJ, who have shown us that they can rise to meet the moment constantly, even after they, shit the bed, basically. So they're going to respond. I feel really good about game 2. And then we go to Atlanta, and that's kind of a semi-home game for us, quote. All right, well, thank you for watching. Again, subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you around the Knicks-Verse.